And pretty soon, there it goes. Says we're live. Welcome, everybody. It's Tuesday night. It's 9 o'clock, at least in the only time zone that matters. It's 9 o'clock. So that means it's time for the Get Off My Lawn podcast. And we are very happy to have all of you out there in YouTube land. So some of you are catching this live, and some of you aren't going to see this until it replays. But either way, we want to know that you're out there. So if you're live, drop those comments over in the live chat. Say hi so we can say hi back to you. And if it is the replay, then go ahead and drop those comments down below so we know that you were here. And let us know whether you liked it or didn't like it, the things that we had to say. So real quick, I never remember to do this. So I do have to say that, you know, in light of the topic that we're going to discuss tonight, none of us are lawyers. None of us are actually in the habit of handing out legal advice. We're just going to give our opinions. Our opinions are our own, and the views and opinions expressed by people on the panel may or may not agree with mine. You may not agree with mine, but everybody is here to express their opinions, and that's all these are. But you know what? A lot of this is just banked in common sense. So who do we have out there in the chat? Let's see. We've got my beautiful bride, Sandhills sweetheart, was the first one to say welcome. And she is right over here off camera in the producer's chair. She is actually the reason why everything works around this place. So we're happy to have her with us. Justin Gibbons was out there. Justin, I don't even remember where you told me you are right now, but I know you're nowhere near home. So you keep it between the lines there, good buddy. Mystic Guns is out there. Fluffy 10mm Jeep guy. Defense Dad doing double duty. Gizzard's out there giving them the bird. 10X Shooters. New York Outcast is out there. Who else do we have? Rolling down the line. Blitz is in the house. Kingpin's out there and in here. G23. Jay Brown. George Grayson Cat. And if I missed anybody, it's because you're not commenting enough. Carolina EDC Reviews. Jacob S. Schofield is here. Ghost. Happy birthday, Ghost. He turned 29 today again, so I hope you got a nice big box of crayons for your birthday, Ghost. That way you won't be hungry tonight. And I don't know if I've missed anybody, so go ahead and make those comments up. Travis is joining in the chat too. Cool. All right, we've got one more guest that is planning on joining us, but we will just let him be kind of pop in here as a surprise here in a little while. We're going to let everybody say hello and introduce themselves real quick before we take off and jump into this. So the first one that I had joining us tonight was Defense Dad, coming to us from the capital city of Nebraska. What's up down there in the Star City?
Not a whole lot, man. Thanks for the invite tonight. I haven't done much with my channel the last couple of weeks. I've been moving. But I'm kind of hoping, I got a new toy, so I'm kind of hoping to do a video and show people some upgrades that I did.
Awesome. So, and I've seen pictures and kind of looking forward to seeing the unveiling on a video of that new toy. It looks pretty cool. All right. Next up in the house, we had all the way from Massachusetts. I'm assuming you're coming to us live from home, right? We've got Charlie from Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think it's going to be cool. Hopefully we can get some people fired up out in the chat and get some lively discussion going. All right, next up we've got Kingpin in the house coming to us from the land of Mary.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for the invite.
He lives in the part of town that's not quite a crap hole over there in that Baltimore area. So, but thanks for joining us. And then we've got also now from the Star City, because your move is done, right? So,
yeah, it's just kind of starting. Well, but yeah.
Okay, the moving is done. The unpacking, we know that can take months, sometimes years.
Oh. We just got the last box unloaded in the last house when we sold it and moved. You know, it took 4 years, so I don't know.
Well, we've got Travis P11, so welcome.
Hey, thanks for the invite, man. I appreciate it. Guys, make sure you subscribe to Defense Dad over there and also Sandhills Shooter, and check out Kingpin's channel. And Charlie, do you have a YouTube channel?
He does.
Yeah, it's just Riding Shotgun.
I was going to give him a shout out if you. Oh, right. Okay, yeah, duh. Okay, yep. And Riding Shotgun with Charlie, man. Make sure you check it out. Good stuff. Yes. All right,
if you
man.
haven't checked
Thanks for the
out
invite,
any of
buddy.
these other fellows that are in the panel tonight, you're really missing out. They do some really cool stuff. So, looks like I missed another birthday. So happy birthday to Carolina EDC Reviews. See, that's what happens when you double team one of these live podcasts. Is we've got somebody over there that actually takes the time to read everything while I'm running my mouth, and she can let me know what I'm missing. So that's pretty cool. Real quick before we get rolling out there in the chat, Charlie, Vanessa Kitty wants to know where in Massachusetts you're located. She is very close to Springfield, but she's in Connecticut.
Very cool. I live in Sturbridge, which is just off of 84 and the Mass Pike.
I'm sure that's going to mean something to her. So cool. I've never been to that part of the world. I've never been. I've been east of the Mississippi one time, if you count a layover in the Atlanta airport. So that's been it. Maybe one day I'll actually get to go check out the rest of the country if we ever open the country back up. And that's a discussion that could take us the rest of the night. We're not going to get into it right now. Maybe next week. Stay tuned. All right. So a couple things that we're going to go over here. A couple articles in the last couple weeks that I have come across, and I found these on Facebook. Somebody had posted them. I'm a member of several different groups on Facebook as far as Second Amendment patriots and whatnot. And one of these actually came right here from Nebraska, just south of Omaha in Sarpy County, which is the southern half of Omaha, really, down there where Offutt Air Force Base is in that area. So I'm just going to read through this real quick, and we're going to talk about this, and then we'll get into the other article here after a while. But I want to talk tonight about defending your castle. And what I mean by that is you hear a bump in the night, or you're sitting at home and all of a sudden the door just crashes in, whatever is the case. People who don't belong coming into your home. And when is it okay to defend yourself? When is it not okay to defend yourself? At what point or to what extent can you defend yourself and your property? And the first thing that we're going to acknowledge is we get it. Every state is different. We know. Okay. So you do have to know your state laws and any local jurisdiction laws as well. So that's why I said none of us are lawyers. And to my knowledge, none of us on the panel are law enforcement. So we're not going to be able to get you out of a bad spot just because of the things that we say tonight.
Now, I took one semester criminal justice 101 at UNL. Does that qualify?
It might actually,
Okay, but I haven't really been arrested, so I don't. Okay.
According to the comments that people talk about in Facebook, I think you may be just darn near Travis P11 Esquire at this point. So
I guess.
Not sure. I'm not sure.
I give advice on everything, so it wouldn't surprise me. I just don't charge for it. So yeah.
But here's the first instance, and I'm going to just kind of speed through this real quick, and I'm not going to name the names, and I'm not going to screen share the article. I did get this off of KETV TV's website over there in Omaha. So it says, what was the date on this one? Let me look here. March 25. So it's a couple weeks old now, but it's still fairly recent. 2 men are facing charges after an incident in Sarpy County. Officials say officers were called Wednesday around this time to this street for a report of an armed party. Investigators say that the homeowner was armed with a semi-automatic handgun outside his house when he saw 3 people who matched descriptions of individuals suspected of stealing from unattended vehicles in the neighborhood. Let me say that again. He was armed with a semi-automatic handgun outside his house when he saw 3 people who matched descriptions of individuals suspected of stealing from unattended vehicles in the neighborhood. The guy confronted the group and they ran. He pursued one of the people, an 18-year-old, and fired 2 rounds in his direction, said the officials. Neither round struck the guy that was running away. Deputies took both men into custody. The younger 18-year-old was arrested for attempted theft by unlawful taking under $500. The homeowner, or I should say the resident, I don't know if it was an owner or not, but the resident who saw the 3 people was arrested for attempted first-degree assault and use of a weapon to commit a felony. So, of course, when this was posted, a lot of people kind of blew up in defense of the homeowner, saying, hey, we actually have in our constitution, in our state constitution, the right to, basically the general consensus from some of these people was you can shoot people if they're stealing stuff. Now, I've never found that in our state constitution. I've never found that in our U.S. Constitution either, that you can shoot people for stealing your stuff. And while I'm not a lawyer, I did stay at Holiday Inn Express here a while back. More to the point, when we were having our class time for my Nebraska concealed handgun permit, one of the things that we had discussed is, in order to use lethal force, and again, I'm only going to speak for my state, so those of you from out of state can sure speak for your own areas there, but in order to use lethal force, it's only justifiable in Nebraska if you are in imminent danger or somebody near you is in imminent danger of death or serious bodily injury or sexual assault or kidnapping. So a suspect with his arms full of TV running out your door is not a candidate for you to take up target practice. You can't shoot somebody for stealing your stuff, not in Nebraska. And I don't know that there's a state in the union that actually says that you can chase after somebody down the street and shoot at them to get your TV back. So maybe Texas, I suppose. I don't know. So I want to know, first of all, I want to know everybody else's thoughts, and we won't walk on each other. We'll just kind of take some turns here. We don't have too many of us in here right now, but especially for those of you who are outside Nebraska, I mean, is this something that you kind of see being universal across the country, or are there places that maybe you can shoot somebody just because they took your stuff? I guess I don't know how this works. I think it's a bad idea myself. Okay, don't all talk at once.
All right. I honestly believe, and everybody can disagree with me on this one. I honestly believe that you should be able to, God, I don't know how to put this, defend your property with the firearm if it's being unlawfully taken from you. I'm not, when I say defend, that's where I draw a line. Do I mean kill if somebody runs off with your television? I don't know. I really think it's ridiculous that a person can walk up with a baseball bat, smash the window in my car, because I've had my cars vandalized before, and it's really a pain in the butt to clean up, let me tell you, glass. And I've had stuff taken out of my cars before, and you're upset. And if I sit here and watch somebody do it, you mean to tell me I can't do anything to restrain them from taking what's mine, what I've paid for before? Yeah, we can't let the government come in and confiscate our property because that's against our Constitution. And we could defend with arms if we had to, if a militia tried to take up residence, not a militia, but if the government tried to take up residence in our homes. So I don't know. I honestly believe you should be able to defend your property with a firearm. Now, when you say defend, it's what degree you take it to. If somebody's coming at you to kill you to take your stuff, then I think you should be able to use lethal force. Just because I think if we had the ability to defend our property with a firearm, we probably have a lot less problems. Some people might be a lot less likely to break into your house if they know they could be shot, or less like somebody's going to kick in your door and come take your whatever because they know they could legally be killed. What kind of crime do you think we would have in this country if we had that kind of ability as citizens?
That's one of the reasons why we're having this talk tonight, because so many jurisdictions right now are not they're not even sending the police to 911 calls unless a violent crime is being committed. So they're and a lot of jurisdictions have even, I guess, not so much decriminalized, depenalized theft, up to $500, up to $1,000, things like that. So you're not even going to get arrested at this point for taking something that's not yours up to a certain dollar amount. So that's why I want to have the discussion, because I agree. I think that there needs to be something you can do, but at the same time, there's a fine line between, being outside your home and seeing somebody who matches a description of, maybe Neighborhood Watch was in the area and they've been passing around the description of these suspected car thieves or car vandals and property thieves. But if you see a group of people that looks like they might be up to no good, can you chase after them? And then when they run, because a guy runs at you with a gun in his hand, what are you going to do? You're going to run. So that does not necessarily translate in my mind that they're guilty. They just don't want to get shot. So then that guy in turn pulls up and fires 2 shots at one of the people that are fleeing. Again, all the people who said he shouldn't have been arrested are wrong. because he actually, I think, committed the greater crime. And it looks like from what the charges were listed, he did commit the greater crime. So that's one of the things that we need to talk about. We've got a lot of situations where we may not ever get help from the police. For sure, we all are our own first responders, but also we've got a lot of brand new gun owners out there who maybe haven't had time to take a class yet, maybe haven't had time to go over all the laws yet. So I want to get this discussion out in the open and get people thinking. So Charlie, I'm going to pick on you since you're not in Nebraska like three of us are. Are things different in Massachusetts, or are they kind of similar?
They're definitely different. Let's get that right off the bat, man. We do have a castle doctrine in Massachusetts, but you have to retreat as much as you can. And even though some of the laws say that you have the right to protect your person and your property, I don't know if I would ever shoot at someone for taking my stuff. As much as I'm going to be upset about this and mad and angry and frustrated and pissed off, it's not a good idea. And I think the story, when I was reading the story, it's three people that fit a description. This guy's not a cop, and it's a good thing he's a bad shot and didn't shoot these guys, because I think he could have been tried for murder. I mean, he's not a cop. They're not stealing his stuff. He's got no reason to shoot at them. And it's I make it clear when I teach classes that the reason that I have death tools, and I use air quotes when I say death tools, but the reason I carry knives and guns is to protect me and my kids. And my line is, I might wear tights, but I'm not a superhero. And I don't owe it to anyone else even if you're watching something, I don't owe it to anyone else to save their life. And I owe it to my kids, and that's it. That is where I draw my line.
And that's another great point that we hadn't brought up yet, is I don't think that there's a state in the union where even as a licensed concealed carrier or as a legal, a law-abiding, background check passing gun owner, as Charlie says. I may have watched a video or two of yours, sir, but as a law-abiding, background check passing gun owner, I'm not obligated to step in and save anybody's life. Even the police are not obligated to defend you or protect you. So if SCOTUS can rule that the police don't have an obligation to protect you, then clearly your fellow man or woman does not have that obligation either. So yeah, I mean, the first thing you've got to think of is, how is this going to affect me? And if you have a family, how's this going to affect me and my family down the road? What could possibly go wrong? As a gun owner, whether you're a new gun owner or you've been around guns your whole life, or you've been a gun owner for 50 plus years, I mean, we all recognize the fact that as a gun owner, we do have certain power. Literally, we have power. We have the power to create a controlled explosion in our hand and potentially take a life. That's power. It should be sobering, and you should understand that there's a huge level of responsibility that's going to come with this. So if you've got a gun and you've never had one before and you haven't thought about some of this stuff, you need to start thinking about it, especially if you bought your gun with the intention of using it for self-defense or home defense, because you need to be prepared whether or not you can pull a trigger to potentially take somebody's life, because that can happen. It's not ever our intent, but we know it's a very real possibility when that happens. So Kingpin, are things kind of similar where you are? I don't know what you have for castle doctrine or anything like that over there, but as far as defending one's property, is it any different than anything we've mentioned so far?
We have curl up in a ball and beg for mercy over here. We have a castle doctrine, but it's really paper thin. And if you're, standing on the street corner and you get mugged, then you're pretty much supposed to just give up. There's very, very few gun owners in Maryland that have a concealed carry permit that aren't some type of law enforcement. So we have rules on the books, but they're super weak. Like Charlie was mentioning, you have the duty to retreat.
Yeah, and that's now Nebraska's kind of different. We don't have a castle doctrine per se. We are a duty to retreat state if you're outside your home. You don't have to leave your house, but the way that I was taught in my concealed carry course, even at that, you really should barricade yourself in the bedroom or whatever. There's nothing in the living room that's worth your life or taking somebody else's. So as far as that part goes, I mean, you know, I yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, sorry, I got sidetracked. My train of thought just hit a cow. It happens in Nebraska. No, out there in the chat, Sarge is saying we only use deadly force for things that can't be replaced. Which, I guess, if I said it that succinctly, Sarge, we wouldn't have had a need to talk about this tonight. So, again, I kind of want to get the discussion going and get people's mind churning. Does Travis? Do you have Sarge's email? While I'm talking, do you want to send a link out to Sarge? Because he says he's got some time and he can jump in.
And there's lots of people out there that think it's absolutely cool to blast you over taking their stuff.
Absolutely. You're right. There are.
And then there's people that you hear it all the time, step on my property and find out. Some of them are just blowing smoke. Some of them mean that. If you step on their property, they're going to smoke you.
So again, would society be worse if we were set up like that? Let's play devil's advocate. Like, you know, what if we had? I mean, and again, you'd run into those situations where you have that drunken fool that falls onto your property and you shoot him. But I'm saying, like, somebody threatens you and comes onto your property the second they cross the threshold of your home, and you shoot them. And if society said you're not liable, they broke the law, they entered your home without your consent. Would it be a worse place? You know, would things be worse? Would we have those grandmas not getting killed by those psychos? Or, you know, I'm not advocating murder. I'm just saying, you know,
right? But
Charlie, I think you're muted, buddy.
Sorry, I think I'm back. You just said if somebody threatened you, now crossing your property,
that's what
lost,
I'm talking about.
drunk, whatever.
I'm going to kill you, but
okay,
physical engagement with you.
Right now, so yeah, if somebody says I'm gonna, you know, bust a bottle over your head, oh, okay, that might be a little bit different, you know. The other thing I like to tell my students is that, especially here in Massachusetts, if you shoot someone, even in self-defense, you're getting arrested, you're going to jail. Your name's going to be in the newspaper. Your kids, their friends are going to find out about it at school. It's going to go around the school that you're a vigilante, you're the Punisher, you're Batman, you go around killing people for fun. And what's going to happen is you're going to take me to, I don't know, we have this, you're going to take me to the local bar and grill chain, buy me a $12 steak dinner, and I'm going to buy an attorney a new house. I'm not in for doing that for anyone except the boy and the girl.
Which makes total sense to me too. And I want to throw this out here real quick. Well, you know what? We've got Sarge in here now. So Sarge, I'm going to give you a chance to catch up, make any comments that you either did already make in the chat and want to reiterate, or comments you haven't typed yet. So go ahead and we'll give you the floor.
Oh, well, no, I was listening. I think some good points were made, but I heard everything getting all confused and jumbled. That's why I was trying to jump in on the comments, because you mentioned about a specific scenario, then people were changing it into, okay, now they've entered the house and now they're threatening me and my family to give the answer to. You got to kind of take them as they come and not mix them together.
And we are going to differentiate here in a second. I was going to try and put everything back on a track for that too. So, yeah, because that's a totally different scenario. If somebody kicks in your door, levels a shotgun at you,
doesn't matter if they kick in their door and don't level a shotgun at you. What's their intent of them coming through my door? What they're wanting to harm someone? Because anybody that's wanting to rob something, and I showed at least a little bit of resistance, I'm yelling at them, telling them not to come in, and then they do come in. Well, they got a different motive. Now I'm scared for my life.
Which is a completely different situation than just
running away with a TV.
Right. And the situation that I want to at least to start with talking about is, you know, I hear a noise. My bedroom's upstairs in my house. My living room is on the main floor. I hear a noise. I come down the stairs, and if I walk down the stairs and keep walking, if the front door is open, I'll walk right out the door. That's, my stairs line up with my front door.
Mhm.
If I'm coming down the stairs and I get halfway down and all of a sudden, I see somebody run out the door with my TV in their hands, and it's a big it's 55-inch TV. I'm not going to tell you my address. Please don't come take my TV. We just bought it. But it's going to take both hands to carry this thing. So clearly, anybody that's carrying this TV is not at a point where they can make a threat to me because their hands are tied up. So unless they're, crazy good at kickboxing and they can kickbox with a TV in their hands, then they're not a physical threat to me. So I'm not going to take a shot at the back of somebody. And we all know that, we should have grown up learning you don't shoot people in the back. You don't shoot people that are running away. They're not a threat. At least not when somebody's just running out of your house with a TV. I'm not a soldier, and I've never been in that situation, and I'm not going to get into any kind of rules of engagement. We're going to leave that one alone. But we all know that somebody that's running away from us is not threatening our life, especially if they're not running away from us, reaching behind them and taking shots at us. They've got a TV in their hands, and, kind of what I'm here, or what I'm picking up from this article is, maybe these people weren't empty-handed. For all I know, they had a baseball bat or a crowbar in their hand or something like that, and they were about to break into some vehicles. Who knows? But the article doesn't say. So for all intents and purposes, we need to assume that these people were just, happened to be walking in a group of three that matched the description of another group of three. And it sounds like possibly they might have been the right people, but how easily could this have been a case of mistaken identity? And
that's why you don't do something final like that. Let's do something absolutely final that we can't take back in the spur of the moment. Let's shoot them dead.
Yeah.
Earlier out
in the comments, Gizzard Gary had said, doesn't seem, and I'm paraphrasing, I don't have the comment in front of me, but he had said something about it doesn't seem right to give the death penalty for trespassing.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's not cool. So, so now back to Sarge's point, if we tweak the scenario and somebody comes in and they do have a weapon in their hand or something like that, or, for whatever reason, you happen to look out the window and you just see that somebody's coming onto your property with a weapon in their hand, totally different scenario. That to me seems like an act of aggression. That's going to be something that, I could yell out to them, hey, don't come in here, because I'm going to take it as a threat and you're not going to like my response to that. Or whatever is the case. That seems like something that we could very much definitely justify, trying to defend ourselves or defend our family. Every situation, of course, is different. Like Charlie said, the boy or the girl, which are your kids, right? You're going to do whatever you need to do to keep them safe. But somebody where, the defense dad, I know you're a dad, but I don't think that you have your child every night all the time, right? There are times that
Right.
your kid's not in the house, so sometimes it's just you. That's a whole different scenario too, where you don't have anybody to watch out for but yourself. So, we've got to keep everything in mind that, sometimes fleeing can be an option, whether you're in your house or not. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you've got people that you can't leave behind. You've got to make sure that they stay safe. So, again, going back to this news article, still, I don't think chasing somebody down that looks like, that fits the description of people that have been robbing cars and then shooting at them, either the article doesn't cover all the facts, or this guy was right up there with some of the dumbest people of all time in my mind. So that's kind of my take on the first guy. Does anybody else have anything that they want to add on this article before we move on to this other article? Totally different situation.
No, I just got to say that I agree with a lot of you where just shooting at a random group of people, it looks like a group of people is, it's different than if they kicked in your door and came at you, obviously. I think a lot of us would agree that that's just, you got to wonder what that person was thinking. Did they think they're going to be a hero and hold them there until the cops show up? Is that what this person was thinking? Or just, I don't know. I don't know why you would make an irrational decision like that, especially if you're a longtime firearms owner. So.
Well, yeah. And I think it's one thing to, maybe brandish a firearm or use it to hold somebody. Totally different when you pull that trigger. Now, one point that I wanted to bring up, I cannot remember now what it was that I came across, but I had made a few comments, saying that, hey, that you can't shoot somebody just for taking your stuff in Nebraska, on the thread, from where that article was posted in the group. And of course, people wanted to jump all over me, and half of them agreed, and half of them thought I was dumb and whatever else. And shows what they know. I am dumb. So, joke's on you guys. But the thing is that after I did that, I actually was flipping through YouTube, and I found a snippet from a different podcast, and I wish now I could remember which podcast it was. It was one of the the nationally syndicated podcasts, not Gun Freedom Radio, but something big like that. And a guy was talking about not this very instance, but the same kind of situation where he said, just keep in mind that every time you pull that trigger as a citizen, as a law-abiding background check passing citizen, every time you pull that trigger, that's $100,000. Now, maybe you've got concealed carry insurance or something like that to help cover some of that cost. But by the time you get done with court and lawyer fees and legal bills and everything else, especially if the person on the other end of that bullet ended up dying, then, you've got potentially a criminal case, more than likely a civil case that you're going to look at. Again, depending on the state, some states don't allow it. My state does allow a civil case, even if you're acquitted in a criminal court. So you're looking at $100,000 roughly that you're going to spend or will have been spent for that one bullet going down the barrel of your gun. What's the TV cost? $500? I mean, maybe $1,000 or $1,500 if it's super fancy or huge.
What's your freedom cost?
What's freedom cost? Exactly. But I mean, I there's nothing in my house that costs $100,000. Not even the house. Maybe if it was the way that we pay taxes on it, it's worth $1 million. But anyway, there's nothing inside this house besides our lives that is worth $100,000. So again, I'm not saying that you should just roll over and just let people come in and take whatever they want. That's not what I'm advocating for. But at the same time, be smart. Know your laws and know what you're going to potentially go to jail for if you're wrong. Just because you're mad doesn't mean that you can shoot the person, depending on the situation. So again, be smart. Try not to spend that $100,000. That's all I'm saying there. Okay. So we're going to switch gears. Here comes a whole different situation. Now, let me preface this. The way that I first saw this, I was flipping through Facebook, came across a clip from Tucker Carlson, and I think it was even on the Fox News Facebook page. But this is from whatever, Tucker Carlson Live or Tucker Carlson Tonight, whatever it's called. And then I watched this, and then I went and I researched it, found an article, and read all the details from this article. Now, what the article says on Fox News and what they actually said on the air on Tucker Carlson is a little bit different, because the clip on the TV show was with the owner of a store. I think it was a convenience store in Virginia. And his store had been broken into. He had an employee who, due to social distancing, wasn't staying at home. He was actually sleeping in the back room on a cot in the store, just to keep the social distancing from everybody in his house. And he heard somebody break in. He knew that the owner kept a handgun in the back, so he grabbed that gun and fired a couple shots out into the front of the convenience store in the dark. Ended up hitting one of the people. And then the guy that defended the business and ran those people off got put in jail. Now, the segment on TV was about the outrage and how, the owner of the shop said this guy's a hero. He shouldn't be the one locked up. Now, again, I'm not going to read the names, but we are going to I'm going to read through this here and at least hit the high points of the article. And this was published on March 31st on Fox News. It says, Virginia shop owner calls arrest of employee who shot would-be robber very sad and mind-boggling. So we're not going to play the clip, that's for sure, because I don't want a copyright strike. The owner of it was a smoke shop. Virginia Smoke Shop told Tucker Carlson tonight, Tuesday night, that he is outraged that one of his employees had been charged after fending off a trio of would-be robbers over the weekend. They had broken into the store early Sunday, 3 men with masks on, he told the host. The neighbor upstairs said when they broke the window, it sounded like a car smashing into the store. The employee said it sounded like a shotgun. The employee was sleeping in the store in order to practice social distancing due to the coronavirus pandemic. According to the owner, the employee woke up, reached for a pistol, and shot at the intruders to scare them, hitting one of the 3 young men. The owner told Tucker Carlson when the police arrived, he assumed that the employee was in the right and practicing self-defense, but the cops were treating us like we were the ones that caused the harm. Oh no, the outrage. The employee was charged with malicious wounding, reckless handling of a firearm, and violating a protective order, according to a police statement. The owner is outraged. He had to go put the guy, get him out on bond and put up $25,000. He said, it's very sad. I was born in Arlington. I pay taxes. The gun is registered. Everything's perfect. I can't believe as American citizens we're being treated like this. Now, this article doesn't quite mention it. I did find in a different article from a different website, which I don't have with me right now. I did find out that, again, he had violated a protection order. This guy had multiple domestic violence counts against him. He was a prohibited person. That's why he went to jail. But at no point did Tucker Carlson mention that at all. And I now have got zero respect. I already didn't have a lot of respect for that show. I've got none. Because if you're going to report the facts, then report all of them.
Yeah, that sounds like he selectively chose which ones he wanted to report.
We cherry picked the facts on that one to get it on TV and make people upset and upset the conservatives, which happens more than we want to admit. Doesn't matter what the network is. Before we all jump into here, we've got a new addition to the panel. So let me introduce, and we will let you have first crack at saying hi and any comments you want to make. Mr. Rob Pincus is in the house. What's up? Maybe. It says he's here, but he's muted. You might have to hit that unmute button there.
His signal's gray in the top left corner, so he might not be connected just yet.
Out, huh? Oh, well, he made it into the side chat, so. All right. We will let him maybe jump out and jump back in. And so I'm going to let everybody else kind of go ahead and discuss this. First of all, the prohibited person part notwithstanding, just the situation, employee sleeping in the back. He hears a noise. The window's getting broke out. 3 people come in. He grabs a gun, tries to scare him away by firing 3 shots. Wise, not wise, completely asinine. What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, the way I read it, the way I saw it, it was like he just blindly fired. He didn't know what for sure he was firing at, and you don't do that whether you're a prohibited person or not. Like you have back to those classes, you're taught every time you shoot that bullet, that every bullet has a lawyer attached to it. So you need to know what you're shooting at, and firing blind in the dark just because someone broke into a smoke shop, a bad idea.
Very much a bad idea. Anybody else want to jump in there?
Yeah, I think it's a bad idea too. I was with the store owner, the store employee, until it said that he was trying to scare them off. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's not a good idea. Scream, shout, tell them you're calling the cops, tell them that you have a gun, tell them all that other stuff, but don't even fire warning shots. Don't fire shots to scare people off. That's from like, oh, all right. Not a good call. Not a good call.
Nope. I would concur with that. Who else wants to jump in there?
I heard.
I agree with Charlie, man. Plus, when you're working in a business, there's a chance the property's already going to be covered
by insurance.
Granted, you might be fearing for your life, but the property's going to be covered. So, yeah.
I heard an interview with the guy who owns the smoke shop on a local radio station. And then that night he did Tucker. And he said that the guy opened the door from like he was in a back room. He opened the door and fired into the store side. So it's even worse. It's not like he popped up from the back behind the register and started dumping. He had to actually open a door and fire in. And if you look at what he was charged with, you can't actually argue what he was charged with because he was charged with reckless endangerment and mishandling a fire. All those are all legitimate charges. It's not like he got charged with attempted murder.
Yep.
Tucker Carlson.
Yep, exactly right.
Watch more Tucker.
What was that, Kingpin?
I said I love Tucker Carlson. You guys need to give Tucker a break.
I'm not saying
He did
that it's
drop
not
the ball.
entertaining sometimes. I'm just saying
he
that
dropped
I.
the ball on.
But at this
I
point,
was
how
pretty
do
upset
I
when
know?
watched him because he wasn't asking questions.
How do I know if he's dropped the ball or cherry picked facts on any other segment that he's run at this point? I don't. I know that he sometimes brings people on just for the sake of argument, and whatever. If that gets ratings and it makes people tune in, cool. I get you. But sometimes we just have to. Sometimes we just have to decide that maybe we should forego ratings and just be truthful, because being truthful means not just commission of a lie, but also omission of the truth, right? We need to make sure that we cover it all. So, okay, according to the side chat here, Rob says he can hear. If you unmute Rob, can we hear you is the next question. So according to my screen, you still don't have any bandwidth and we don't have you.
Is he going to disable the low bandwidth?
It's a good question. He says he can see himself and he can hear us, but we can't see you. I don't know if you did already, Rob. You might have to just exit out of the chamber tab and then re-click the link back in the email and then just log back in. I do know that sometimes people have to jump out and jump back in, and the GunTube chamber works really well for the most part. It sometimes does leave a little bit to be desired, but Night Strike does the best that he can, so we really appreciate him. So no, we're not seeing or hearing anything from you. I can just see what you're typing in the side chat there, Rob. So maybe just jump out and in, or maybe you have and it's not letting. I don't know what's going on. Heck, this is the beauty of live podcasting. We don't make this stuff up, kids, and we don't do it ahead of time. This is 100% unrehearsed. It's just like live from New York. It's Saturday night, except for live from Nebraska. It's Tuesday. So, all right. And I think that we've got a better cast, honestly. Okay, so does anybody else have anything? Hopefully Rob will get in here and we'll be able to hear from him. Anybody else have anything that you want to mention on the shop owner? There, we've got another Rob. You've even got green in the corner. It says you've got a good connection.
Anytime something like this happens, it just kind of throws fuel on the fire for more anti-gun sentiment, essentially, irresponsible gun owners. Or users, for that matter.
Yeah, and that's, I think, one of my biggest complaints about both. I'm going to call them both idiots because, again, a couple of the things that were done. Of course, the first guy, south of Omaha there in Sarpy County, is I think he's a complete idiot because he didn't think things through before he took off running and started, shooting at people. But even the guy in Virginia, there's no way he didn't know he was that he was a prohibited person. I mean, he might not have realized that came with it, but that's on him. Ignorance is never a defense, right? And also, again, the warning shot thing, like Charlie said, that's not something that you should ever do. That's just going to lead to trouble. That's kind of like saying that, I only want to shoot people to wound them. Well, what kind of monster, sadistic, person are you? We don't try to hurt people. That's not what we're about. We only try to end the threat, right? We talked about that here several weeks back. So yeah, sometimes people die, sometimes they live. It doesn't matter. We want to make sure that the threat is over with, and that's the main objective. Sarge, I saw you put your hand up there.
Are you stopping the threat or are you ending the threat? I'm not picking on you.
No,
I
that's
just had
cool.
someone that always said it that way at work, and I'm like, do you really want to keep saying that? Do you want to stop them or end them? If a
I
person
want to
is
end
a
the
threat,
threat. I don't want to end a person. The
But if the
last thing I
person-
want to do is end a person. I
yeah,
want to
you wanna
end the
stop
threat.
the threat.
So I want to stop them from being threatening or end their ability to be threatening. Yeah,
Yes.
you're right. It's into semantics, but a prosecutor or
You wanna
potentially a
stop the
defense
threat.
lawyer would have a field day with that. So I will try to
I'm
change
just
my
kidding, because if something
nomenclature.
happens and they go back and replay all these, you want to say stop.
I do want to say stopped. Thank you. Again, we're not lawyers, but Sarge actually does know a thing or two about being law enforcement. So, all right, Rob, are you with us? Because I see that you jumped back in. I see that you're not muted, but I don't hear anything. We have the worst luck getting you in here. It never works. That's why I didn't even announce that he was going to be here ahead of time, because this is what happens. Even if I had announced it, we'd have never even seen him. It wouldn't have worked at all. So, okay, I cut somebody off. Who did I walk on?
All right. Well,
Shoot.
I just had a question. One thing I didn't see in the article too is that since the owner is the one making the big stink about everything, I'm not a lawyer, but what are the laws for? It sounded to me like he had a loaded, unattended firearm around, and gave an unlawful person access to it. I'm kind of surprised he didn't get charges pressed against him too. I could be wrong on that, but
That's a great question. I hadn't thought about that part of it, but I think that again depends on jurisdictions. Depends on if they have a gun storage law or things like that. I don't know how Virginia is. I know until recently, Virginia was actually pretty red on gun laws. So they may not have had anything like that pushed through yet. They might not have had a safe storage requirement, something like that. And again, ultimately, okay, so we can argue back and forth on who's at fault and point fingers all night. But again, you've got to be responsible for your actions. You've got to be ultimately, if you're the one pulling the trigger, then you are the one responsible for what happens when you pull the trigger. And that's the way that I feel. We're maybe a sidetrack, but I think safe storage laws, I understand the intent and I get the nobility of the intent. But again, if somebody breaks into my house and steals my gun, that's not on me. If I've got little fingers, curious fingers in my house, and I don't have the guns locked up to keep the curious fingers away from them, that's on me. That's not on them. Okay. I'm not advocating for leaving a loaded gun lying around where curious little fingers can get to it. That's not what I'm saying. But if it's illegal for me to have a gun lying on my nightstand unattended when I have no kids in my house, I did read the book, How to Talk to Your Cat, about gun safety. So the cats are good and the lizards never get out of their terrariums. They don't even know how to shoot. So we're going to be okay here. I don't think there should be a law that says I have to have my gun in a safe. Because again, if somebody breaks into my house and finds it, it's not on me. It's on them. They committed the crime by breaking into my house. If it's in my vehicle, they broke into my vehicle. So whether it's locked in a glove box or locked in a safe under the seat or in the trunk or whatever is the case, again, I'm not the one that has committed the crime here. They did that. They did a bad thing. And if they use my gun to commit another crime, then that's another crime that they've committed. So, okay, so now on my screen, Rob's little window has completely gone away. So, he's just going to type in the chat. All right. So Sandhills Sweetheart will keep an eye on that. And if there's anything that that needs to be read, then she's going to make sure I see Rob's comments so we do get his words or his thoughts in here. So now that I'm kind of stopped on my little soapbox there, does anybody have anything that I don't know that anybody would disagree with what I said, but is there anything, a different point of view maybe that I'm missing on the fact that even though the shop owner had a gun in his store, I don't think he's the one that committed the crime there unless they had a storage law. So what am I missing? What am I not thinking of? Anything?
I know it's different in your house, but in your business, if you get a concealed carry permit for your business in Maryland, and you say, Sandy, you got a concealed carry permit for a t-shirt shop in Maryland, and I work for you, I can't use your gun to defend that store because it's not my gun, and it's less hairy because I have a HQL, the handgun license in Maryland. But if I didn't have one, then I couldn't even be alone with your gun. Like you can't leave it in the store and leave with me there unless it's locked in a safe or something like that. I'm not sure how Virginia works.
I like to point out to people that here in Massachusetts, we do have storage laws, and you're supposed to keep the guns locked and secured so unauthorized people don't have access to it. So it sounds to me like the store owner should have had everything locked and secured so that his employee didn't have access to it. And usually, what happens if somebody has access that's not supposed to, it's like a $2,500 fine for that, and I think maybe up to a year in jail. I'm not 100% sure, but there's a stiff penalty. I had a student in one of my classes who was living with his girlfriend. His girlfriend was on she was on medication for something. She had I don't know if she was bipolar or whatever her situation was. I don't know, but she got depressed. She picked up one of his, she had access to one of his guns and she shot herself, and he had to he had to pay a big hefty fine for that. So I don't know how much it needs to be on the store owner. I also like to point out to my students that if whenever there's a story from Free America where a teenager uses a gun to protect himself in their house, I always like to bring up the fact that in Massachusetts, the parents would, even though their kids are alive, the parents would get slapped with this improper storage fine because the kids had access they weren't supposed to. And I like to say that the state is really out for the bad guys because they don't want your kids to be able to protect themselves.
Well,
Yeah, that just seems like you're disarming people.
just to be clear, I wasn't saying that I necessarily thought the store owner did anything wrong. I don't know if he did or not. I was surprised that you hadn't heard about anybody pressing charges because, let's face it, the American pastime is no longer baseball; it's litigation. They file lawsuits for stupid stuff all the time. That's all I was saying.
No, that's a very good point.
I thought that was a great point, and I'm glad you brought it up because I actually took a note. I'm like, all right, is the store owner the gun owner, or was the guy that was sleeping there the gun owner? Because it doesn't say in the story.
The other article that I found, and you can find several different articles that covered that incident. One of the articles that I read, I do believe the store owner was the gun owner. The prohibited person who was the employee, it was not his gun, but he knew that the store owner kept it in the back room, and that was the room where the guy was staying on the cot or whatever it was. He was sleeping in that back room there. So, and again, that was one of those other articles was where it said he was a prohibited person because of his domestic violence charges, and a protection order, restraining order. I don't know exactly which it was, but those he did have those served on him. One of this order, something like that. So yeah. Alrighty. I gave Rob the option to call in. Night Strike had messaged me and said, "Hey, tell him to call it in." And I usually don't include that in my link, but yeah, you have that as an option too. So he's going to check that out. He's either doing that or he's typing. I haven't seen a comment come through yet. 10X Shooters out there in the chat says everyone needs to check out Personal Defense Network, and that's true. That is one of the many irons Rob has in the fire. So we're going to try and plug all of the different things that he does. If he doesn't make it back into the chat, we're going to have you go check out all that cool stuff that he's got. He's also part of Walk the Talk America and part of Avidity Arms. And sometime in the next century, there's going to be some cool stuff coming, maybe from them. And everybody always wants to know when the gun's coming out, and he always just has to laugh and say it's going to be here when it's here. It's not a fast process. So, So anyway, okay, so let's kind of open this up and just kind of spitball with other situations maybe that weren't talked about so much in these two articles, but just when it comes to defending your castle, what are just some good rules of thumb and things to keep in mind? And I'm going to more lean on those of you who are instructors than our regular Joes in the panel, because I know that you've thought about this at length and taught about this at length.
I would say if you're going to have a home defense gun, you want to keep it separate from where your other hunting and whatever recreational guns are. Maybe have it in some sort of a quick access safe where you punch in the codes or it reads your fingerprints or something. So it's a little easier and quicker to get to. Definitely have a plan. I'm certainly as pro gun as everybody else. I remember hearing one of my friends put out some video at Thanksgiving time, and she's like, hey, it's Thanksgiving, you're going to have friends come over. We've got guns all over in the living room. If you're having people over, put them away. And I'm like, oh my God, that is so free America. I would never think of storing something in the living room, but have a plan, have a quick, easy access so you have access to it and the other people aren't supposed to, and think your way through, no two exits, all that sort of stuff.
So Travis is leaning over and showing us his decor in the background of his studio there. So apparently, yeah, you've talked to Ammo Dog and Ammo Cat about not messing with the guns, right? So they know safety. You're muted, Travis. We can't hear you.
Yeah, absolutely. They've grown up around firearms, so they know better. And without having opposable thumbs, they can only do so much damage. So, yeah.
That's true. But anybody that's watched Boondock Saints knows better than that. You don't need opposable thumbs to cause.
Oh yeah, definitely keep the cat off the table, man.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why we try to keep the cat off the table. Oh dear. All right. So okay, is there anything else that I have missed? Sarge, do you want to throw anything else out there, or any thoughts that you've had that we haven't got a chance to hear from you? I love it when you come in here because you think about things in a way that I don't think about, and I love just hearing your perspective from your experiences and whatnot.
Well, I teach concealed carry as well as enforce the laws, so I have a unique perspective. Well, I'm not the only one, but I mean, as far as just on keeping them at home, it all depends on your state laws. Like here, you only have a duty to secure them from minors. I've got one just sitting right here beside me. It doesn't have to be secured. There's nothing like that. I mean, you don't have to have one here just dedicated for home defense. It doesn't matter if you use your shotgun, your rifle, your pistol. It doesn't matter what it is if you were justified in using a firearm. So it just depends on where you're at. Make sure you follow your state's laws.
And always learn what those are. And again, especially for the crowd who is newer to being a gun owner, you definitely owe it to yourself and everyone around you, and especially everyone in your household, to learn the laws. And again, just know how to be responsible. It's one of the things that, in my mind, it's always kind of a fine line between rights and responsibilities. You have the right, if you pass a background check and you're not prohibited, you have a right to own a gun. And I don't think that there should be any criteria other than you haven't broken any laws and prohibited yourself from being a gun owner. That, to me, is the only criteria. You shouldn't have to jump through any other hoops to buy whatever gun you want, and that's my own personal opinion. That means that, yes, there's going to be bad people, dangerous people, and crazy people. And yes, I'm going to put all those into quotations and not actually try and single anybody out or hurt any feelings when it comes to mental health. But there are going to be people that can get their hands on a firearm that probably shouldn't. That's what freedom is. Freedom's not safe. That means that we have to take that risk, and we cannot punish people for something they've never done. Are they going to commit a crime in the future? Well, we don't know for sure. Is it likely? It's possible. but that doesn't mean that we can take away their freedoms because they might do something bad. And I will fight tooth and nail against that kind of notion every day of the week. Now, that being said, because you have the right, and we all should have that right, we all have a responsibility to make sure that we use our tools that we have the rights to use. We need to learn to use them responsibly. And that can be firearms, that can be words, that can be peaceful assemblies, that can be, even religious gatherings, things that we have a right to, printed words, spoken words. You've got a responsibility to use them in the correct way. Again, you guys have heard me say, probably you're tired of hearing me say it, you can yell fire in a crowded theater. If that theater is on fire and I'm in it, I sure would appreciate it if you do yell fire in that crowded theater. But if you yell fire and there's not one, and you create panic and people get hurt, you are the one responsible for how you use those words incorrectly. You do have the right, and again, I don't advocate the use of bad words or words that demean people's ethnicity or anything like that. Any kind of slur that you can think of, whether it's racial or gender or sexual preference, any of that. I don't like it when people use those, and I'm going to have words with the people that do, depending on the context and the situation. But I think that you ought to have a right to say them. I think people ought to have a right to put you in your place when you do it, but you got to have a right to say those words. You also need to take responsibility to what happens to you if you use those words in the wrong way or in front of the wrong person. That's on you. So, just be aware that every right is a two-edged sword, and the backside of that is the responsibility that comes with it. So keep that in mind. Use your tools wisely. Go ahead.
As long as that responsibility doesn't require you touching me.
Well,
I can say all the dirty words I want, and when you touch me, guess what? You broke the law, not me. You're wrong. So you
that's
don't.
very true.
Now, obviously, there's threats of violence and all that kind of stuff, which gives you the opportunity to defend yourself. But if I'm just sitting there dropping racial slurs and you put your hands on me, you're in the wrong, not me.
You're absolutely right. And again, that is on me. If you call me, whatever, call me fat, I can take it. But somebody calls me that and I get mad and I put my hands on them, that's on me. Because again, I couldn't handle it. They have the right to say that. Kingpin has the right to call me anything he wants to call me. I know better than to think he will. But at the same time, people have the right to call me whatever they want to call me. I can get mad about it. I can cry about it. I can let it go, whatever I want to do. But again, I cannot violate somebody else's rights in the defense of my own unless they already have violated my rights, and words in that context don't violate my rights. Now, if he was slandering me, that'd be different. Probably wouldn't be able to put hands on him legally, but I would be able to file a suit for slander and defamation of character and get retribution for such a thing. There are ways to deal with these things in the proper channel. And you can call me a wimp or a pacifist all you want, but I don't think throwing hands is always the right option. My mouth has gotten me out of everything it's ever gotten me into so far in life, and I've never been in a fist fight. I'm 40 years old, and I'd like to make it the rest of my years being able to claim the same thing. So I'm a lover, not a fighter. But if I'm in a corner, I think I'm a fighter too, so don't start anything. So anyway, and again, I don't have a boy or a girl running around my house, but I've got my girl. So if I'll do anything I need to do to defend her as well. So I understand where people are coming from.
Now, I'm an advocate of punching somebody in the nose if they need it, but it's a very thin line, because if everybody went around punching everybody in the nose when they needed it, we'd still be cavemen. That's why we don't, like we were talking about shooting people in the back before. It's been ingrained in everybody's life all throughout human history that only the villain shoots somebody in the back or stabs him in the back or something. You face him face up. That's what the guy in the white hat does, or the hero of the show does. So sometimes jerks need to be slapped around a little bit, but you can't break down society because of that.
Well, and it depends on I think there's a difference between a jerk and a bully too. So if somebody's being a jerk, maybe not. But if they're being a bully, that's a little bit different, putting hands on them too. So again, just be prepared. If you put hands on people, there could be repercussions. And you never know, somebody goads you into punching them first and then sues you for assault and battery. Again, you just be aware. Actions have consequences. So out there in the chat, I think Philo is a Black Panther. I'm not sure what's going on. So anyway, Ghost says throwing blows is always an option, rarely the right one. The trick is knowing when and where, right? So and that's something that, again, like I said, I've never been punched in the face, and I've never punched somebody in the face, and I'm okay with it, my days ending in the same way. So, but I'd still rather see it coming than have somebody take me out from behind too. So, all right. So, all right. We're a little bit past 10 o'clock now. We've been doing this for about an hour. I think we can go ahead and kind of wrap things up a little bit. But before we do, Night Strike has joined in here, and we haven't gotten a chance to talk to you yet or hear from you. So we're going to let you say hi, and then anything else you want to comment on, we'll go ahead and let you have the floor.
Yeah, I'm just glad you used the same room name so I could jump back in.
Don't tell anybody. They probably already figured it out.
They probably have, but it's just one of the quirks of GunTube. But if I was here when Rob was having problems, I would have told Rob to just use the call-in feature because his cell phone signal might be better than his internet signal. I
did copy that and email it to him. It just didn't work. So the next time I plan on him, I think I'll just go ahead and see if we can figure out something. But we'll get him. We'll get him one of these days.
Because the call-in feature, while it's new on GunTube Chamber, I've used it with roll call because we did rants and raise, and he couldn't use the internet, so he had to use the call-in feature, and we were able to do the whole show with him just using his cell phone.
So if you call it in, then does it look the same as far as the actual chamber, as far as initials and all that, or how does that work?
It will detect the caller ID, so the name will show up. So if his cell phone calls caller ID says Rob Pincus, then it'll be Rob Pincus.
Gotcha.
Or it was roll calls. It was his it says wireless caller. It's whatever your caller ID shows up as, more or less.
Okay.
The
reason I'm asking is, will it put a phone number up? Because I don't want people having my phone number if I call in.
It will not show the phone number. It'll only show the name of the ID.
Okay, gotcha. Okay, that's not so bad then.
So if your phone says wireless caller when you call someone, wireless caller. I've also got my Google Voice number. It just says Houston, Texas. So
very cool.
Because I got a Houston number just because that's what Google assigned me.
I called in Budget Show like 2 weeks ago, and it works just like regular Hangouts, just from your cell phone.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. So you, I guess it's no different when I get on a conference call at work.
I'm working with GunTube Chamber with what I've got. Yes, I wish I could do a bit more. I wish I could get more stuff rolled out, as we need it. But when you're limited on resources, you do what you can.
Absolutely, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to take away from what you've built here, because I love the fact that we can get so many people in here. I didn't have a ton of people because I didn't want everybody walking on each other tonight, and I kind of wanted to keep the room fairly small, but at the same time, we can get 15, 20 people in here. We can get a bunch of people if we need to, and that's kind of fun too. So, alrighty. So, Night Strike, do you have any comments as far as the topics? I don't know how much of it you heard, how much you got here for, as far as defending one's home and property or business.
I was listening to mostly I've been listening to all of it.
Okay.
Commenting kind of out there in the chat, being a little annoyed that I had to search for a link.
I just figured you could get into any one of them since you built the thing. I thought you had plenty potential.
Aren't you the landlord, Night Strike?
Yeah, you got the skeleton key.
You
But
created it just like
I
the
would-
planet.
That would be misdemeanor B&E if you went in without authorization.
Exactly, it deals with privacy. But the thing is, South Carolina is a lot like North Carolina, where we have castle doctrine, but we also have stand your ground. It's got both. We've got both. So, if you're in your home, you don't have to retreat any further than your home because you're already in your home. Your home is your castle because of castle doctrine. Same with your car in South Carolina. So your castle doctrine extends to your car.
Not here.
3 places you have the most protection: home, your vehicle, your place of employment.
Yeah. So, in South Carolina, there is one thing. We do not have a duty to retreat. But again, I talked about this. We got into it a little bit on Hit or Miss, me and Travis. And the CWP instructors here in South Carolina and even law enforcement say, you don't have a duty to retreat, so don't worry about that. But if it's a situation of which you don't have to get involved, don't get involved. Just get out when you can.
And ultimately, I mean, depending on the situation.
I agree with that. If you do not have to get involved, don't get involved.
Yeah, and we had that talk here a while back too, that a good run is always better than a bad fight. Live to fight another day, especially if you've got other people with you that you're responsible for their safety and well-being. Getting them out, I believe, is the number one priority. So,
and absolutely,
keeping them safe.
And I am by no way saying that you shouldn't protect yourself. You should protect yourself at all times, but at the same time, you should know in the situation whether you should get involved or whether you should look for an alternative way out.
Well, and again, I mean, that we could have a whole other night of just talking about something like that too. But if you're inserting yourself into a situation that you've come across, you don't know all the facts necessarily unless you saw it happen from start to finish. You don't know for sure what's going on. You don't know which one is the aggressor. You don't know which one is the victim. It's best not to assume things, especially when firearms are in the theater here. So don't ever assume that you know what's going on. If you're not sure, stay back. And again, if nobody's threatening you or the ones that you're with, then it's probably best to just leave well enough alone. Again, depending on what's happening. Sometimes it's a little obvious. If you've got, people wearing gang colors and there's 4 or 5 of them surrounding a little old lady with a walker, then it's probably not too far of a stretch to assume that they're probably up to no good and they're not just helping her across the street. I mean, again, if you see them knocking her down or going through her purse or something, that's kind of maybe a little bit more obvious. But at the same time, you don't want to assume, and that can get you into jail. That can have bad things happen. We don't want to do that. So just be smart. Use your head for more than just holding a hat or growing hair. I use mine for a hat. I don't use mine much for growing hair anymore, but it's all good. So, all right, Night Strike, thanks for jumping in here and helping out. And again, thanks for making the gun tube chamber, because this is cool. So,
well, I am only the guy who put it together. I really have to thank those that support GunTube and those that support GunTube on Patreon and those that helped out with the Indiegogo project, because that's what got us where we are right now. So without that, we wouldn't have even gotten this far.
So yes, if you like what we do and you want to keep GunTube Chamber not only on the air but improving, then go to Patreon and look up GunTube or look up Night Strike and help keep everything going. It's not just these channels that need the help. It's all the stuff that you don't think about, all of the servers and everything to keep this on the internet so that we can broadcast from here live out over YouTube. That definitely makes everything work. So cool. All right, Sarge, we're going to let you kind of give any final thoughts you want to give. And if I know you've got some videos out and I don't know what's coming, if you want to give any kind of channel plugs, now would be the time.
Check out my CZP07 video that I put out, the last one. I thought it turned out pretty good. Really fun gun. Treat yourself to a P07 if you don't already have one. I didn't get to go to the range Monday, but I'm rebuilding the range. Hopefully I have my new steel in for the weekend. Want to shoot some video on Saturday, and I appreciate the invite. And I always love the concealed carry discussions. I always love it. That's why I started doing all this. So Love them. Need to have more of them. So thank you for the invite.
Duly noted. Thanks for being here, Sarge. And again, I know I said this before, but I do appreciate your perspective because you look at the world through a completely different set of eyes than I could ever look at the world. And you've seen and heard things that I know they're not all good, but you've seen and heard things that I'll never consider. So I always appreciate you joining us and giving your perspectives.
It's a total difference when you go somewhere and someone has been shot, or you've actually seen someone get shot. I've seen two different people get shot, one on duty, one off, and it's a terrible thing. So that's why you really got to think about what you're doing before you pull that trigger, because there's no getting that bullet back. And there's things risking everything for, and there's some things you shouldn't risk everything for. So just think about it. That's why we do this. That's why we talk. So,
just get the ideas out there and get people to thinking. All right, Travis, thanks for being here. Go ahead and plug anything you want to plug there.
Yeah, no problem, man. I appreciate the invite as always. Make sure you check out my YouTube channel, Travis P11. Got a couple new videos I'll be dropping this week and next week. I'm finally getting back out to the range. Otherwise, check out Caliber Corner Monday nights at 6 o'clock Central Time. A little firearms discussion that we have, guns and ammo kind of thing, and that's it. So appreciate the invite, man. Thank you.
You betcha. Thanks for being here. All right, Kingpin, thanks for joining us.
Oh man, I appreciate the invite. Great conversation. Everybody have a fantastic week, and see you next time.
You betcha. Thanks for being here. Charlie, you're up. Thanks for being here. I know we don't have you all the time, but you're welcome at my fire any night.
I appreciate the invite. I don't want to get back into it, but you just said something, wrapping things up, that kept the brain thinking. You said leave well enough alone, which is great. If we see someone else getting attacked, we don't have to get involved or shoot someone. You can get video, you can be a good witness. And that's if you see someone else, be a good witness, get a good description, where do they go, and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, I appreciate the offer. I'm glad you got in touch with me. It's as I'm sitting home, with out of work for the rest of the school year, I'm like, man, I should keep my sorry ass up and stay up late and join one of these. So I'm glad you invited me, because that certainly gave me more incentive to do it. Anyway, people can find my stuff at Riding Shotgun with Charlie. I've got a YouTube channel. I put the audio out as podcast. I've got a channel on Gunstreamer. The show that I put out last week is the gentleman that kept his gun store open after the governor and the attorney general in Massachusetts said that all gun stores are non-essential and all gun instructors can't instruct. This guy's 71 years old, and he is full of piss and vinegar. He's really worked up about everything. So that's the show that I put out last week.
I tell you what, he was fired up. I watched that.
Dude.
That was awesome. Here's a link in the YouTube chat there to Riding Shotgun with Charlie. I didn't put that in there, but that's what that link is. That latest video, he's a go-getter. I tell you what.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This was really cool. This is one of those nice feelings that you get. I called him up, and when I called, he was on the phone with Glenn Beck. And so I'm like, I'm looking for John Costa. They're like, yeah, he's on with Glenn Beck. Can you call him back? Absolutely.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So now I know everything's up in the air and nobody knows exactly what the future is going to bring, but are you still planning the Stagecoach Across America this summer if it's possible? What are you thinking there? Or should I not put you on the spot?
No, put me on the spot, because it makes me accountable. I still want to make it happen. I'm dragging my end of the deal, trying to look for financial support. What I've thought about doing is adapting it a little bit and just staying on this side of the Mississippi. There, I have not done interviews in the South or in the Mid-South. I did interview some people in Florida, but Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, the Carolinas, Tennessee, Kentucky. I'd like to try to get those states this summer.
Well, as a Nebraskan, I say that's a terrible idea, but I do understand you need to do what you need to do. So if you do make it out, if you said maybe the Missouri, come all the way to the Missouri, I'd drive to Omaha to meet you if I had to. So I might even cross into Iowa if I had to.
Yeah. Can I sit in the back seat? I'm cool to ride back seat shotgun if you got extra seat back there. So
all right. Well, I got to tell you, man, I've got a map on my wall at my desk, and I've got a spot. I've got a pin in northeast Nebraska.
That's awesome. Very
So,
cool.
It's I don't know when
Ooh,
it'll
there you
happen,
go.
but it's on the agenda.
Tell you what we need to do is I'll ride shotgun with you in November up to my family ranch. If you get an out of state hunting permit, we will get you a deer. So just saying.
All right, the possibilities are endless, man. I love it.
All righty. Well, Charlie, thank you very much for joining us. Again, you've got a perspective coming from New England there that most of us here in the middle of the country, would again never think about. And I know that things are different in the communist state of Massachusetts. So I do feel for you. You and Kingpin both are living kind of behind enemy lines there. So we do feel for you out here in the free part of the world. But again, I understand not leaving. Somebody's got to stay and fight the good fight. So we appreciate everything that you're doing and just bringing awareness to the masses that again, people who own guns that obey the laws and pass background checks, we're not the criminals, and we're the ones that get punished by the laws, but we're not the ones that, or we're the ones that follow them. The people that cause the laws don't bother following them anyway, and that's just a message we can never spread enough. So it's such a simple concept that so many people don't seem to be able to wrap their heads around. And I just don't get why they don't get it. So thanks for everything. All righty. And last, certainly not least, we've got Defense Dad doing that thing that he does where he's a gun owner, he's a dad, he's trying to find the perfect balance of safety, responsibility, and advocacy and activism. So, dude, everything that you're doing is cool. I'm not just saying this because you're a better looking fella than I am, but your videos, they're awesome. I like the things that you do. You're serious when you need to be. If you want to make fun of yourself or have a fun video, you know how to do that. If you're not checking out Defense Dad on YouTube, then you're missing out. There's some cool stuff. And I like the fact that you're real. We try to be real here on our channel. And I'm the same goofy know-it-all off the camera that I am on these live chats or that I am on any of my other videos. Sometimes I get off and I get on a soapbox and I get preachy.
Even worse.
It happens. Shut up, Night Strike. Oh, I'm sorry. He's right. But at the same time,
I remember that room in Tulsa, man. That's all I'm saying.
There's nobody on this panel now. I haven't met Sarge or Kingpin or Charlie in person, but I've talked to you guys enough that I know I can say this for you as well. There's nobody on this panel that has an online persona that acts any different, whether the camera is on or off. And I know that I appreciate that on the videos that I watch, which is why I try to bring that to the videos that I make. And I just love it when people are genuine, even if you don't want to use your real name for security purposes. I get that. I understand, especially if you've got people, that live in the same house that you do, and you can't have people looking you up. I get it. That we understand the need for a screen name or a handle, but at the same time, the personality is real. And now that I've kind of gone off on a sidetrack, Defense Dad, we're going to go ahead and let you just talk about your channel.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, for those of you who haven't checked out, it's Defense Dad. It's a very small channel. I started it just to help people like me kind of learn the things you don't know, and just it's to help people learn from the mistakes that I made along the way. In fact, I've got a couple new videos going to come out to that note. Biggest thing, I appreciate the chat tonight. If some of you out there are new gun owners, or know some new gun owners who haven't, watched stuff like this or done research, take it upon yourself to learn those laws, because if you don't know the kind of stuff we're talking about tonight, you can get yourself in all sorts of trouble. I mean, kudos to you for purchasing your first firearm. That's the first step, but there's more involved with it. So do the research and know how to protect yourself, and to the best of your ability, keep yourself out of harm's way and out of jail if you can.
Very good stuff, and thanks for being here and joining us. And again, you've got a unique perspective that I always appreciate hearing about the things that you have to say when we have these topics. So, and that's very true. It's kind of like when Obi-Wan first gives Luke Anakin's old lightsaber, right? And he's like, you've just taken your first step into a much larger world now. I mean, the gun is like the lightsaber. You've got the gun, and that's only the beginning. There's a whole new world of things that you need to learn now. So very, very awesome. Alrighty. So again, out there in the chat, I know I said this at the beginning and I try to say it every time. If you're watching this live and you're not making comments, we cannot see that you're watching and we want to tell you hello. So we've got the list. So who did we have out there in the chat tonight? We had Justin Gibbons. We had Mystic Guns, Fluffy 10mm Jeep Guy, Defense Dad, Gizzard Gary, 10X Shooters, New York Outcast, Blitz, Kingpin, G23, Jay Brown, George Grayson Cat, Carolina EDC Reviews, happy birthday again, The Poor Conservative, Tim Donahue, Jacob S., Vanessa Kitty, Ghost Tactical, also happy birthday, Schofield 63, Travis P11, Pat Hirsch, Riding Shotgun with Charlie, Dead Horse, Frankie's Guns and Glitter. Frankie, I didn't see you out there. Howdy. Erstwhile, I haven't seen that name before, so welcome. Dangerous Freedom, the 402 Outdoorsman, Stealth Hunter, Guy That Comments, Idaho Rogers, Sarge, Seven Wonders, Keith Gregory, Obnoxious One, Night Strike, Darcy Sorensen, Mike, Rob Pincus, Philo, Double A, Armament and Axes, Ozzy Osbourne, Weston Probst, and Angulo. Again, welcome. I don't think I've seen that name, so if I said it wrong, then I'm sorry, but it looks like Angulo to me. So, again, I can't stress this enough. Without all of you watching, there's really no need for us to get together and oh, Tara's in the house. What's up, Tara? There's no reason for us to get together and live stream these. We could all just, talk to each other, text each other, whatever, and have these conversations. But the thing is that that I think they're points that we need to people need to ponder. We as a society need to ponder. And so I want to have these conversations just to make everybody else think. So those of you that are out there watching, whether it's right now live or you're catching this after the fact and you're still, you've stuck with us to the end, we appreciate all of you. We appreciate it when you share the link. If you know of anybody that you think would benefit from anything that we've said, please share it with them so that they get a chance to hear it too. If you just, broadcast that link out there on your social media, that really makes me feel good when I see people are just out there sharing the heck out of it. I love it when that happens. We appreciate you. Again, I'm never going to ask for your money or expect anybody to donate any money to the channel, but if you want to, you can always go over to Patreon, and that's the easiest way to support us. So patreon.com/Sandhills Shooter, and you can, for as little as $1 a month, you can help keep us, not on the air, because that's going to happen no matter what. But at the same time, better equipment and things like that. My next goal, I think, guys, just so you know, here's what the money's going to go to. I want to get some sort of a microphone mixer so that we can each have a microphone. And if Sandhills Sweetheart actually does decide she wants to say something, all she has to do is unmute and then tell me to shut up, and we'll come through the same channel. So she doesn't have to log in on her own, but it'll be kind of like a studio with multiple microphones. That's kind of what I'm thinking of doing. And she doesn't have to talk if she doesn't want to, but sometimes she's got things that are, well, most of the time what she has to say is a lot smarter than what I have to say. She just doesn't think so. So maybe if we get her own microphone, there's a chance you guys might get to hear her a little bit more often. So that's kind of what the Patreon money is getting saved up for. Is for that next. Out there, I've also see Ohio 45 ACP. So howdy, we did meet him when we were all in Tulsa a few years ago. That's going to happen again. Not this fall if they do have the Wanamaker show, but maybe next spring we'll get a chance to get down to Wanamaker, and hopefully the world is back up and running the way that we want. I don't know that we're going to get Rob again, although he's been talking a lot lately on different places about a little bit of civil disobedience. And I know a few weeks ago we talked about just because you have the right to do stuff, maybe it's not the responsible thing to do. But I want to cover the other side of that coin. So that's probably what we'll do next week, is just talk a little bit about, civil disobedience and not so much a full on revolt or no boogaloo or anything like that. But just, at what point should we not let the government say you can't get together? You can't go to church. There are things that the Constitution says the government cannot take away that have been taken away. And we're going to talk about that, get everybody's personal opinions on whether it's right or not, and whether we should do something about it or not. And if we should do something about it, what? How far should we take it? So that'll be next week. So on behalf of Rob Pincus, Night Strike, Sarge from C4 Defense, Travis P11, Kingpin, Charlie from Riding Shotgun with Charlie, Defense Dad, Sandhills Sweetheart, and myself, I just want you to know that without you guys out there, everybody I just named and everybody else that's hearing my voice right now, this thing doesn't go anywhere. We love each and every one of you. We couldn't do it without you, but at the same time, you got to remember, get off my lawn.